Chief, can I just add that he withdrew because of family issues that popped up is what he, yeah.
In the meantime, we did a interview with Matthew Benedict, who's one of our in our first quarter of that's been with the department for over 3 years. He's now fully vested in the state on-call contingent of the department and has expressed an interest in the fire department full-time as a firefighter. He was interviewed the other day. I'm satisfied with Michelle and Supervisor Skibby. If you guys would like to add anything to the application of that interview,
I was part of the interview. I think Matt is a great person. I think he would be a great addition to the township. I did have my one concern of his lack of experience in his youth, but the chief has assured me that he will be mentored fully until he feels comfortable sending him out on his own.
Not much to add to that. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about Mr. Benedict and the character and his devotion thus far throughout every aspect of the fire department. Just now, I guess the comforting aspect is with the creation of just a fireman EMT because of his experience level. But good kid. Well, he is a good kid.
I know, but he's an adult, but I know, I
No,
think of him as
we're
a
all
kid
kids.
too, because I have kids that age.
We don't age discriminate.
No, we do not.
sometimes we come across people and try to make a point.
Dave, could you just make sure that that microphone is actually on? Shouldn't,
And if you would, I think you're socially
There you go.
distanced enough here that you could take your mask off. It'd be easier. Good. Thank you.
Bless you. Thank you. And you're right, the microphone was off. What I was going to say was I reminded Matt the other day when he was touting his experiences so far. I told him I had hiking boots that were older than him, which he took in good humor. But no, seriously, Matthew does have what I perceive to be an excellent work ethic. I'm very comfortable around him as far as daily station duties and chores, and I'm confident in watching him grow. I'm not saying he doesn't have far to go yet. He needs to bake in the oven a little bit longer, but I believe we can give him that tutelage, and he will be a fine fire officer someday. But so it would be my recommendation to the board, if you please. I would like to offer Matthew a position contingent on him passing the physical and drug screens, etc. If the board so please, that would be my official recommendation.
we have a recommendation from Chief Robbins. Is there a motion that would follow the
I'll
recommendation?
make that motion.
I'll support.
A motion and support, follow the recommendation of Chief Robbins.
So that was motion
Motion
by,
Kroll, support Ellery Summers. Further discussion?
Sounds like a good candidate to me. Yeah, I think he sounds like a good candidate from what Michelle's put in and Chief, so I'm fine with it.
So
Okay, if there's no other discussion, roll call vote.
trustee Reiner,
Yes.
trustee Polly,
Yes.
trustee Lappin,
Yes.
clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers,
Yes.
trustee Kroll,
Yes.
supervisor Skibby.
Yes.
I will get with him and you, chief, and finish up the new hire process.
okay.
Dave, I was going to ask, is he already in the community or is he moving?
Yes, he is. He lives on First Street.
I don't need to know where he lives.
Yeah, right now, but yeah, he's in the community and well vested family wise, and
Chief,
Would
did he
like to
not
stay in
start out as a cadet?
He did.
Okay, so he's
Um,
been around for a while.
Yeah, he would, and originally, I mean, it wasn't a huge program. We started out originally with 6. Which may not seem like a lot, but we were looking at our scope of control for sometimes having only one person to administer that program. So we settled on 6, but 2 of those are currently Matt certainly has followed along and is ingrained in the department. And the other one we're particularly happy with is Blake Scott, who right now is in the academy. He has not yet finished his firefighter 1 and 2, but he's working pretty diligently toward it and has been a good student in NASA so far.
Is he on our radar screen for here?
He is with that, so.
Yes, Michelle.
Chief, I don't know if the rest of the board knows that we actually have 2 people in the firefighter 1 and 2 academy.
Yes, we do. The other one is, well, Lauren, she goes by Lori Kirby, who is actually a full-time employee for Mid-Michigan
She's an EMT, isn't she?
ambulance. She's a basic EMT. Her goal, I believe, I don't want to speak for her, but what she's indicated is she is very interested in being a firefighter and also pursuing higher level of education in EMS. She would like to become a paramedic someday. So, and she's also a pretty solid employee. Heard nothing but good about her. So I'm pretty pleased with that batch. So. I don't know if it's the time or place, but before I go on to the next thing, I want to publicly apologize to the clerk and the supervisor for, I was a bit late to that interview the other day, and I need to apologize for that. So please indulge me and accept them. So, the next thing I'd like to, for the board to consider is to perhaps allow the clerk to republish or repost the job on Indeed. And I understand that would be up for discussion because of the cost. However, the experience thus far has been is that is where we got the majority of our applicants. I did reach out to the 5 colleges I spoke about prior and had them post at their academies and fire science programs. I think I certainly will admit I failed to consider that a lot of the colleges had been closed to public classes, so everybody was doing stuff offline and they weren't actually on campus to see those postings. So far to this point, we've gotten very little return back on those. However, I'm hopeful as things are turning around and they're allowing the kids back on campus that would flip back the other way and that we would receive some more. But I would like to see that republished and hopefully on Indeed to see if we can't get a few more applicants online and interviewed. So
Do the colleges, Dave, not have a website that they put this stuff onto or not? I mean, I don't know.
yeah, I honestly, Russ, I have to admit to you, I didn't ask that question. I assumed that had been part of the deal, but it's not. I didn't confirm it, and I'll follow up on that.
And could I ask one of you where we published it, got you the results you got?
Indeed.com.
Say again?
Indeed.com.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a online job.
I mean, if anybody
job
has a
posting.
better one that they can think of.
As long as we put an end date to it and we don't rack up $1,200 on an advertisement.
And
that would
yeah,
be-
certainly was my
Well, I
concern
will
also.
put an
That's a lot of
end date
money
on
for.
it.
Is there anything with the local employment services, the state employment place? I can't think of the name of the
I
place.
can't remember what they call it now. But, well,
Those
that's
are
a private one. Star Staffing would be a possibility.
Michigan Works.
Michigan Works,
Works.
yeah.
I mean, we can, we're gonna write up the new ad and we can send it over there for sure. Doesn't cost us anything to do that.
Okay. Do you want me to make that contact, Michelle, or
Well, why don't we work on how we want to write up the ad first? We could do that together, Dave, and then,
and tweak it? Yeah, okay.
we'll figure out who's gonna do what, but we'll get it out there as much as possible.
Do you do it by the month? How does Indeed?
You can
work?
pick how many days you want it out there.
What did we do last time?
Uh, It ended up being out there for over a month.
Yeah, I believe it was over 30 days and we ended up with a total of 14 applicants. I will admit to you, three of those were not really qualified for the position, but that is the number of respondents we got from that posting.
So do you know if they post, and this is a silly question, but do they post in alphabetical order?
I don't think they do.
Well, the only reason I asked that question is that.
Haley, you were the last one.
I knew that was coming.
Were we in there
You
alphabetically?
can filter how you look at it. Going on there looking for a job, you can put in how many miles away, the newest up to date, started from a day ago to 30 days ago.
All right,
It's
well, I was
really
just
up
thinking,
to the person and what they're looking for.
all right, well, I was just thinking of putting it under Alpena Township instead of Charter Township, just to get us higher on that.
No, that-
All right.
Unique theory. I like the way you're going about it.
I'm trying to use what was granted to me for a short period of time.
So just for a point of clarification, are you also recommending that we move forward with Indeed currently, or is there some work to be done that needs to come back before that happens? Because
Actually, I'll capitulate and I would say maybe Michelle and I should look at it and tweak it a little bit before.
But I
before we
would like
repost.
to have the board permission once Dave and I have it ready to go, that we can post it instead of waiting another 2 weeks to come
Should
back
we
and
just
post
have
it
it?
again.
just table this so that it's on their next agenda?
No,
No,
I would like to
no,
get
no.
it done and
You
on
wanna do it?
Indeed by the end of the week. I want to keep moving forward.
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion on the table to move forward.
For,
A blank, and how long are we gonna run it for?
can we go in 2 weeks?
Because then that would be part of the motion that I.
What are you thinking?
What, you mean run it for 2 weeks? What is the cost of running it for 2 weeks?
I think 2 weeks is probably going to be about $800.
Yeah.
Woof, woof.
2 weeks, so
Is that to the motion?
A week will be like
Yeah.
500.
We,
What do you think, Steve? 2 weeks?
That's fine.
All right.
So
I'm
who
fine
made
with
the
2 weeks.
motion
Reiner.
and supported by?
Steve Lappin.
So we have any further discussion?
I have just a question, and it's not about the Indeed ad, but it's about the colleges that,
Mhm.
are they back in session now, or are they still, is it still remote?
No, my understanding is at least 3 of them are back in session under current COVID guidelines, so.
Should be able to get a hold of the instructor of those classes or the registrar and find out who that person, who the instructor is, and maybe actually speak to the instructor and
Yeah.
see what he or
Yeah,
she can do.
I can do that, given not to do an unreached.
Because of Dell's position, she was able to put me in contact with instructors.
Maybe we can do the same with the other
Fire
ones.
science courses, so yeah, we can make direct contact.
That would make sense to me.
That's what I was gonna ask. So we're looking at colleges that do provide fire and EMS or.
Yeah, they run both the basic 1 and 2 academies, which we next, so they also run a 2-year fire science or 2-year fire science programs.
Now, do they typically graduate in June, May, June, or do they run?
May, generally, May or.
Okay, well, that could be why you haven't gotten much response too.
They're that's when they graduate. Pretty quick. As a matter of fact, one candidate we had
Microphone.
was criminal justice program, downstate, and they're set to direct.
Dave, by chance, did you hit the microphone? Or is it this? need to be charged?
I'm getting a red light,
Okay, so it probably just needs to be charged.
so.
So just maybe speak up just a little bit louder that way. Or Steve, if you want, share your microphone with Chief Rob. Point it in his general direction.
Okay. Let's see anything fun.
Thank you very much.
So that was a yes.
Well,
We have to take a
Or
vote
you have
on
to
it.
do the vote,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
roll call.
Trustee Polly,
Yes.
trustee Lappin,
Yes.
clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
trustee Reiner,
Yes.
supervisor Skibby.
Yes.
Okay, I also would like to, we have approximately 6, 7 remaining applications from the first batch that are qualified but have not been formally interviewed at the discretion of the Personnel Committee. Yeah, I would like to proceed with that as soon as possible and get them interviewed. But of course, it'll have to be a concerted effort amongst us, so what's.
Well, I think you now have some awesome consistency with your schedule. As in you work from noon to midnight every day, so we know that you should be available in the mornings.
Yeah, I mean, we need to continue on with it, so.
Okay,
so-
I'll contact you.
Yeah,
Cash,
make
to-
contact with, Cash is still always the hardest one to schedule around, so.
Yeah.
Cash, just let us know, I mean, we can usually, can't speak because now we're coming up on an election cycle, so that's.
I'll make it work. So just let me know.
Okay,
I mean, and I will do evenings and stuff too, if that's what we have to do. Let's just do what we need to do.
I just have a question. So
sure.
I just want to understand. So we just made a motion to put an ad back out in Indeed.
Mhm.
And now we have 6 or 7 more people to interview.
Yes,
So how many more do we need? I mean, I know we like paid on calls is like an ongoing list.
with,
But I
yeah,
mean, is it possible that the
If-
6 or 7 people could fill what spots we need? Or are you looking
It-
for?
it's
More
possible. I'm just, to be honest with you, Laura, I'm trying to do the 10-to-1 ratio.
Okay,
And, to fill a position, you're gonna interview at least 10
okay.
people to settle on that. And when to answer your question,
Mhm.
if Matt accepts the position, we will still have 3 to fill.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, and actually, just for a break, we now have with us, leaving a wildland fire on North Point Shores, Matt Benedict, who is the newest individual to be offered a potential position with Alpena Township Fire Department. Matt,
introduce yourself.
Township Board,
Sure.
if you want to, young man.
We're gonna grill you.
Sorry.
I didn't know that.
Well, I don't know if Matt wasn't here when the motion was made. So a motion was made, Matt, to offer you a position contingent on the physical, drug screening and agility test.
Okay,
And unanimously, the board voted yes.
okay, sounds good. I guess formally introduce myself. I'm Matthew Benedict. I'm currently a paid on call and a little bit tardy because of wildland fire on North Point Shores. So I made it up here as fast as I could because Zoom wasn't working for me. So
You hit it on the head, North Point Shores,
yeah.
Zoom. Ev, do you have any comments? Is our audio okay? Is our audio okay? No. Well, thank you for showing,
Thanks, Matt.
thank you for your
Yeah,
service.
It was nice to meet
Thank you.
Anything else, chief?
Just one small, it doesn't really have to do with staffing, but at the last meeting, an idea was presented for public relations, the Easter Bunny. And if memory serves right, you guys can correct me, that was approved. However, I think you guys wanted to look at the route and maybe make some additions or changes. Was that you?
We hopped down that conversation
Oh,
yet
no,
again
here
this
we go
morning, didn't we, Beth?
again.
Here we go.
Yeah, no, that was the only thing, because I had a meeting with Bev this morning, and that was my belief as well, that there was no negative response to it. Let's look at the route a little bit,
Expanding it.
making sure that we hit population densities. So that was really the only conversation. Yes, Laura. And the
Did
bubble.
someone reach out to the photographer with the bunny and the bubble?
The bubble.
Oh, Adrian Thompson? I haven't, but I can. I'll
But
write
I
myself
thought
a note.
somebody was because to have them in a central point or something, and
Well, yeah, there was the bubble.
I know we
conundrum.
talked about that. I just didn't know if somebody reached out to that person.
No, I can contact her.
That's not it.
Oh, she is.
But she's doing her own road too.
Okay, I think it's Saturday, isn't it? But when is our route? Is the same day?
Same
The
day.
route was on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
At the actual south side was gonna be on Sunday.
Okay,
But it would not be hard to actually assemble something that would meet the guidelines to be able to stay within our own bubble and not have a commercially manufactured thing. I think we could.
yeah, my grandkids are going there.
So is this on the 27th? Planning to do this on March 27th, or we plan to do it April 3rd or 4th?
The latter, 3rd and 4th.
The third and fourth. Was
Okay.
the original idea. I know I'm not on mic right now, but that was the original presentation. I apologize for not being at that meeting. I was out of state, so I don't know if you want me to.
No, we had pretty thorough discussion
We-
about the Easter Bunny.
The next question is, because if you want the route expanded, and that was just something to throw on paper, I'm not invested one way or another, and I don't, it doesn't have to be that. It was just something to present to you. So if there's something, if you wanted to see it go some other way, I just want to know.
I think the only thing that was kind of in that vein of conversation, and correct me if I'm not wrong, was it was a pretty thorough route, except it didn't really, it looked at the centralized area. It just didn't do anything north of Golf Course Road. And so I guess the only other population density would be like West Long Lake Road, where you have,
You tell me where you want it, we'll make it.
or get to like, or have people, if it's advertised and known, then maybe do a stop or drive through the parking lot at Hinks School. That way you don't have to,
Excellent idea.
every once in a while.
But I think that's. it.
With a hop on board.
Yeah, really, truthfully, the original was, I just sat down with the back and went, let's look at this. Because I was most concerned about the fact is whether this board would say, okay, we're gonna cover this amount, it's gonna cost fuel. I mean, well, there's gonna be a cost. But so it was just a draft, you tell me what you want, we'll figure it out and we'll make it happen. But I do need your approval to make that.
I think we already gave.
I think we did give the approval.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah, no, we,
But I really
So-
like- I like this idea.
so thoroughly, we explored this rabbit hole into great depth.
Okay, we could
I was
stop.
out of town. Sorry, I do have a life, but-
There was a lot of puns, but I
Yeah.
think the route,
We were all tired.
I think you guys work out the route, and I'm happy with that. I don't think.
Very good.
Have we, anybody run the route to see about how long it'll take?
I have not
Okay.
actually.
I'm just
done-
curious.
Yeah.
You think I'm running a route? You're crazy.
I bet you anything by the end of this week, that will happen. How's that?
Copy that. Wonderful. Well,
I would take a vehicle.
yeah, because we already voted for it. Yes, I was waiting for that one. See,
Yeah.
no jogging, no running.
My biggest question is gonna be is how do you want to advertise it? 'Cause I
Well,
mean,
Miss
I
Riddle.
throw a lot out there.
Miss Riddle, does the Alpena News have any really good deals for feel-good community events? Well,
That was to the point.
I can appreciate your honesty.
Make it a story then.
Well, you can
Yes.
use public service announcements. I mean, on the radio stations,
Yeah.
the Alpena
But
News.
I don't have that ability. I'm just a little township taxpayer.
So if you get something together, an email in terms of information dispersal,
We can do a
make sure
press
that we
release.
get all the press.
We can do
In the
press
next
release.
24 hours, you will have that.
We can do a press release.
Easy enough. Anything else? Chief?
That's it.
Okay. Okay, thank you for letting Chief use your mic.
Thank you.
Okay, added amended business B under old is fire department models, trustee Colby. I have a sneaking suspicion that both B and C are gonna be very interrelated to ongoing conversation and would be kind of coming back to as part of our discussion yet this morning. So, but trustee Colby.
I just put together some ideas that I've been kicking around for about the last actual 2 months, hearing and listening, where we're going, what we're doing. And I just put these down on paper, something to talk about, throw away, get rid of, whatever. But these are facts that I came up with myself. Some of them are true facts, some of them, they need more fact checking. But I'd like to hand out a sheet, but I'd like to go down through the sheet real quickly because I'd like to add a couple comments to a couple of the items here, and then whatever you want to do after that. Yeah, and- I call my fire department models to consider. It's a charter township of Alpena Fire Department.
Give one to-
Hire fire department consultants, evaluate our 2 station fire department. The evaluation would provide total cost, number of personnel required, training and other requirements, process to hire a fire chief to put it all together. How long would it take to get the new department up and running and be on its own for the models listed below? Also, any other models that the board would like to evaluate or look at. Full-time firemen, MFR department, which basically we have now. The ad hoc committee recommended this to our board. And a couple of things I'd just like to add that I've talked to, excuse me, a few fire department people that have knowledge of fire departments, and they made one comment that you're looking at 7 firemen. They say 9 is the minimum you should have to run a 2-station department. Just something to put in your hat, chew on. Full-time fire paramedic department, paid on call. I think that's something that we probably really truly can't afford. Full-time our fire department with paid on call operating 12 to 15 hours a day or whatever hours you come up with. And the rest of the time would be handled by paid on call. And a paid on call fire department with a part-time chief or full-time chief. Some ideas here: lay off existing fire personnel, hire the city of Alpena Fire Department if they are interested to operate our department until a decision is reached and is operational. Millage would provide approximately $360,000 to the fire department for each mill requested. These facts I'm giving you on numbers here. I did research them with our assessor. They're not exact, but they're pretty doggone close. The percent of millage that we're getting for the fire department is 1.5 mils, which brings in approximately $540,000. It expires in 2028. So yeah, 2028. The taxable millage cost for each mill to taxpayers would be approximately $100 for each mill assessed. An example would be a house assessed at $50,000 would cost approximately $50 for each mill assessed. The next millage available, I checked with Michelle on this, without cost to the township would be August of 2022. A special election for May, August, and November of 2021 and May of August of 2022 would cost the township approximately $15,000. Another option is talk to the city, see what they can come up with. And we did vote that to be done at our last meeting as far as what they could offer to operate our 2 stations and what it would cost. And we also need some public input sessions for our voters to look at any needs and concerns. Those are just some of my ideas. And one other fact here that last summer, June or July, I did listen to a Zoom meeting that was put on by our attorney Fahey, and they had, I believe it was presidents from all, the Michigan Association of Counties, the Michigan Municipal League, the Michigan Township Association, and a professor or an economist from Michigan State University. And all of them said government should be working together to combine services to cut costs, because our tax base and tax revenue sharing could be reduced as we go down this road from this pandemic. I think that's all I have at this point, but I just want to bring this to the board, some ideas and some thoughts, so you can go where you want with it, but it's only my ideas.
Any questions for trustee Polly? Because I think that this is part where the conversation is gonna fold into old business C as well in terms of public input. As trustee Polly stated, at our last meeting, there was a vote of this board to start discussions of what other options are available. I have not conducted any discussions with Chief Forbush. I think that it would behoove the entire process. I've briefly spoken with a couple individuals in this room. That's a wonderful entry segue into having some very early preliminary public discussions is let's have all the chips and cards laid on the table and utilize, if they would be so willing, members of the ad hoc committee, because part of that exercise looked at a very small window, good, better, and different. It was a great exercise, but what happens when you add in all the variables and have a discussion, especially with the knowledge base that the commitment was already there from Bev and from Chad. I've spoken with both. I believe, I won't speak for either of them, but I feel that they would be willing to put in some time and effort into looking at what all those options would be. And that's a beautiful segue of getting to putting everything on the table, talking about it, because then the next discussion is what now is pulled off the table because it's not costing whatever the variables are. But that way, to make a sound decision, you're at least looking at all the cards, not just looking at a singular vein. Yes, Laura.
I just want to be clear on my vote at our last meeting regarding this. And it was to contact the city to see if they are interested in possibly doing this, period, not.
It's
not-
one of the options, right?
No, right, but I mean, it was that we were just gonna contact them. Are you interested in possibly doing this for us? Yes or no, period. Not then get into discussions, which that, it's my understanding that hasn't happened yet.
Because I wanted to talk with the board.
Right,
There was more to that motion. There was, it wasn't just,
and to send a letter.
no, the motion was to open up the letter of this conversation with basically anybody that was interested.
Yeah,
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
correct, yes. Yes.
yes, Michelle.
And we all know that the city voted yes to have a conversation with us, but we haven't decided who's going to have that conversation with the city.
Exactly.
I personally feel it should be a very open conversation
And-
in front of everybody. This is
That's-
just my opinion. I'd like to do it like we are with the Zoom meetings, with the YouTube Live. Let's be transparent.
Well,
Let's-
that's what we talked about.
So let's
And
just-
Ash made it pretty clear that the idea was, let's learn from the past.
Right.
And not make those mistakes.
Yeah, and that's why that's exactly, it was to start a conversation. They voted unanimously to have a conversation. So
To see if
what
they were-
what format, and I think this is the beautiful segue of bring in members of the ad hoc committee and look at, and maybe that's where you have Chief Robbins, Chief Forbush. And whoever wants to, here's an option, throw it out there. Because
Are you
there's
talking-
more than two options available.
Right,
So
I
what-
mean,
what does it look like?
has anybody reached out to any other entities? Emma?
I have not had the time. I drafted the letter verbatim to the motion. It was a 7-sentence, if that, letter saying, Mayor Walagora, council members, would you like to have a discussion? It was approved by the clerk. So now we're at the point. So how do we want to have these conversations? And my thought is, let's use members of the ad hoc committee hold them here in public. I agree with Michelle as well to that. Have it videotaped. One whole night of good, bad, or indifferent. This is an option. The next exercise is, what are these options that we just flooded this table are just not realistic? And start whittling it away so that we're looking at the full picture. That's the only discussion that I think that needs to take place. And
So
I
are you
agree.
saying bring the options back to this whole board and whittle away? Or are you saying that
Well, I think
when you're meeting with the city, you're gonna start whittling away? Who gets to whittle?
well, and that's where we define, because if we did not define at all for the last ad hoc committee, and we all recognize what those strengths and what those weaknesses were. So how do we define what the objective is in this setting? Because I agree, it needs to be public. I think that anything that's whittled away would be by this board.
That's what I would agree.
But
It's
I
a
guess-
board decision.
But let's
Do we
start with
want
the full
any
table.
input from the community before we make a decision on something? Because I think we're going backwards if we do it the other way.
I think-
Backwards, would you please explain?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking that maybe we should take some input from the community on what they want to see down the road.
Well, I think maybe that's what I didn't communicate well enough was.
And then maybe
let
we
them-
formulate a
them-
plan based on that input.
Let them
Or
have
somewhat.
their say.
I guess want to make sure I have this clear in my head. That we would meet with the city, see what their option is, take that option with several other options. And then take them all to the public, get the public's opinion on all the different options.
That's what I would say.
And then as a board, make a decision after we have received public input. Am I thinking this?
Or you're thinking that?
Trustee Foley, do you have input?
Just so whatever you bring to the board that, and to the people, that what is this gonna cost and where's the money?
Pros, cons, everything.
So we gotta know the whole program, because you
My
may have a
phrase.
wonderful program, but it costs money, and where's that money gonna come from?
Well,
gonna
before, and I'm sorry.
Is it gonna be from assessments, or is it gonna be from the township board? So I think people need to know, oh, this sounds great, but this is what it's gonna cost you. That's why I tried to throw in here what assessments would cost and give you an idea, because I think some of these up here on the top, you can probably roll a few things around and say, ooh, I don't know if we can afford that. I don't think people can afford that, but they're ideas, that's all they want.
Yeah, so it seems to me, and I think being on the ad hoc committee, that we were trying to determine our own sort of direction to take. And we only focused in on those areas. And so we did try to look at the whole gambit, price-wise, et cetera, when establishing a budget. But it would be nice if we were gonna go to the public to have some kind of almost like a monkey type survey of some sort, something that you could put out asking a series of questions, whether it be, just general type questions, not trying to push somebody into one direction or another, but just trying to pose 15 or 20 questions, or however many it would take, to try to focus our attention and to focus the community's attention. The survey that was done, I think in 2016.
16, yes.
So that was an interesting, that was interesting. I hadn't seen that before. And something similar to that to help at least put people in a direction, as opposed to just having them just sort of wander around.
Trustee Reiner.
I hate to see us do that survey again 5 years later, but maybe it's necessary, but those are costly things. But on the other hand, it takes to make an informed decision on this, it takes some time and effort and education. And I've done the best I could even before, I was put on this board. to look into it, because as a citizen attending these meetings for the last 3 and 4 years, one of the glaring things that I saw was the fire department was underfunded. There was a farm team for other departments because we trained them up and off they go. And it was, and you know, and it takes some time to get the information you need to be able to even do that. So, you know, what we saw, what you saw, I wasn't there, but what I was at the meeting, but I wasn't part of your board then. In November was a great deal of response, but not all of it was informed. And it was more emotional than informed. And so part of this job, as I see it, is ultimately that the buck stops with us as a board, not as individuals, but as a board. And I'm actually glad to see some tension and some, you know, this is not one of the things we're probably going to pass by unanimous vote. And it hasn't been so far. And that's good from my point of view, because we need to have representation of a lot of different points of view here. But ultimately, the buck stops with us, I believe. And so, yes, I want public input, but I'm also very willing to say, well, don't give me your conclusions, give me your facts. And because you know, I'm not going to even go into, you know, the other things that can happen when it's an emotional response, but we have a job to do here, and I think we're working on doing it. And you had a model that was intriguing, that it wasn't even in norms, that is intriguing to me, and something that I would always consider, and that was a model similar to what I think you used the East Grand Lake Fire Department as a possibility, where a group of firefighters together form their own little nonprofit corporation, and they become the management of the fire department. And the township board just tries to help them with their funding.
Right.
Much like a lot of other municipal services are done, where you know, things like we've done with the, excuse me, much like we've done with F&V, you know, with our water and sewer services and so on. And so, you know, because people who actually know the business probably can actually run the business better than we can try to be hands-on. I mean, frankly, I don't want to pass on decisions about candidates to hire or not to hire. I would like that to be within a department, not something that this board has to consider. Because I don't know what their qualifications are. I don't know what their motivations are. You know, that's got to be someone who knows the business better than me to make those kinds of decisions. But ultimately, we have a decision to make here. And yes, we're going to have to look at the budget. We're also going to have to look at things like Norm brought up. You know, you folks as a committee spent a lot of time getting it down to 7 plus a chief. But as Norm points out, with 2 stations, is that enough? Is 9 more the type of coverage we need? And if it is, then we're looking at $200 and some thousand more to run the department. So those are the things that we've learned. We've got to be able to talk about, and I want public input sessions, but ultimately, I think we've been elected to make the decision.
Yeah, I didn't mean to have somebody else make our decisions for us. I just meant to focus in the logical areas and not try to sort of reinvent the wheel, but just try to keep everybody on task, particularly to keep emotion out of it. Let's deal with reality, let's deal with facts, and let's base our decision on those proven things and not worry about the emotion will always find its way into any conversation, but to try to limit that, that emotional attachment, because our ears start to shut off after a while. And let's just deal with what we know we can deal with. That's really what I meant. And to try to focus in on just a general direction. We know we need a fire department, at least we should have, for a variety of reasons, and then explore options.
So for this conversation's sake, so then maybe the best practice to move forward to a public input session would be to utilize the ad hoc committee to schedule a meeting with Chief Warbush and city representatives, whoever they so choose, to sit down as a smaller collective and say, this is what's on the table. Then can come back and then we can schedule some input sessions and say, this is what's on the table. This is what it costs. This is what it looks like. These are the pros. These are the cons. I just want to say that we've turned over every rock and looked at every option. Because at this point in time, we know that we haven't. So let's, good, bad, or indifferent, do it to say that we've done it. And then whatever the decision is by this board, because I do agree with Trustee Reiner. We're a representative government. We're elected to make the best decisions. And I think from my standpoint, I've said it once this morning, the end goal of this is to provide our citizens the best service possible. And I don't think any of us have a different thought from that. So, Trustee Crow.
So I guess the way I'm taking it, do you want the ad hoc committee to now go back and look at all these other options and meet as a group and bring back, is that what you're saying, or am I?
Well, and I before we do depart, that's one thing that we learned the last time we scheduled an ad hoc is I would like to have a defined objective.
Right.
And I think maybe this first is just a conversation that could involve the two of you, Mr. Esch, Bev, Chief Robbins, I can't speak for them. Chief Warbush probably sit down and say, okay, these are the options that are on the table, or as an ex officio member, be like, is there some other options that are in between these two opposite polar ends? Because it doesn't have to be just full left, doesn't have to be full right. The reality is where we end up is probably going to be somewhere in the middle, as it should be. But until we openly discuss those topics, we won't know what that middle looks like.
So why don't we do something like this? Why don't we sort of bring the ad hoc committee back online? And why don't we not look at necessarily like you said, let's take of those four original options that I originally spoke to at the very first ad hoc committee. And are there subsections within those sections that we can break down more and more and more? And then through maybe a process of elimination, go and find that optimal way of going that.
Well, and then the blessing to our meeting schedule is this is going to be fairly truncated, because in 2 weeks' time, then you can at least meet at least once and have some of those ancillary conversations, and then we'll all have a report.
Yeah.
And keep it. I mean, but I want to be clear. I want to have objectives. As an ad hoc, let's not just look at solely at budget, but pros, cons, costs associated.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
it. Anything that's possible. And when we get to those public input sessions, then we can say, here's A through H. This is what they are. This is a cost associated with them. These are the pros, these are the cons. And get the public input at that point.
I think that's an excellent approach. I'm sorry, but I think that's an excellent approach to subsection those.
Yeah.
And within those subsections, quite literally have a pro and a con line item, and then begin to whittle away at that way.
I just wanted to bring up, just somebody suggested this to me as an option for us to look at. Not saying I'm for it or against it, but you know, possibly an option would be to continue to have the city run north side and have our fire department run south side. As an idea, that's, like I said, I'm
Well, and
not for
I
or
think this,
against
this
it.
initial exercise, nothing should be off the
Yeah.
table.
No, I know, but I
Just
wanted to just
flood it,
throw that,
yeah.
that idea was brought up and. it's-
Michelle, before anybody,
Everybody likes to interrupt me. No, I was just saying, that's exactly what I wanted, Steve. That's what I thought the original objective of the ad hoc committee was, to look at every option, give us pros and cons, maybe a cost breakdown, and bring it back to the board. So I'm totally for that. I do think it's going to be a long process. I mean, I don't think it's going to be something done overnight in one session. I mean,
no, by no means.
so, I mean, is the ad hoc up to that kind of commitment again?
Maybe not 7:30 AM. I got told that by somebody that may or may not be in the room currently.
Well,
I
you
mean,
know, I
the
really
chief's
do
gonna be
believe
very
that if we
busy
can
with all
stay
these new
focused.
people.
See,
Right.
if we are able to stay focused on an agenda item and not bird walk here and
No.
there,
Right.
then I believe that we could probably make more headway by sticking to exactly what the task at hand is. So I don't think it, I think we could probably knock out some pros and cons of various items probably pretty quickly,
Okay.
and then start moving from there.
Well, trustee Reinhardt was referring to Mr.
There's a couple of problems. And what I'm hoping, I'm hearing everybody say is that we're assigning the ad hoc committee to reconvene and go and meet with Chief Forbush or someone at the city to find out what their option will look like. Because I think from what I understood from their meeting is that then they were okay with him making a proposal to us. But I assume we have to initiate something, you know, let's have a meeting or something.
And he has reached out. It's just my week, this past week was, I cast him like ships in the night. Said, yeah, I'll try to give you a call, and never really took place. And
But I'm all for the ad hoc committee handling that discussion and bringing that back, whatever they present, bring it back to us, because here's where we have to decide it. But I'd like the committee's recommendation. The other problem we've got, and Michelle sort of was getting to it, was this contract with the city ends June 30, right? And we aren't going to be ready to reconstitute our fire department or to, or, you know, depending on the time it takes to schedule public input sessions and so on, which I want, I hope we do, as well as, you know, considering these proposals. I don't know if we can make it by June 30th. And
I don't think we can.
well, and I think that's one of those segues of, there's gonna have to be that discussion as a rider to the end game. Yes, Michelle.
I don't want to rush into any decisions. So if it takes us a little longer, I'm good with that. If we have to pay the city for 2 months, 3 months longer to man north side, so we get it right, I'm good with that. I don't want to make any emotional decisions. Just do it now to get it done.
Yeah.
I'd rather take our time and do it right.
I still think, give some consideration to hiring a consultant. You don't have to have them get down to the bare bones numbers, but I think a professional consultant can say, this is this, and it's gonna cost you this, round numbers. I think that's what we're looking for now, some round numbers, how we're gonna pay for them. And I think a consultant could do that. I understand there's some good ones out there. Where they're at, I don't know, but I think they're there to research and bring that information back to this group.
anybody got an idea on that type of cost of that type of consultant?
I actually have 2 names of a couple. I can reach out to them.
Okay, that would be good to have before we.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't do anything. I'll just quiz them a little bit. I would like to have the ad hoc committee meet only as an ad hoc committee right now. I don't want to prejudice thinking one way or another. I think that if we brought the city chief in, that's going to prejudice some of our thinking. And I don't know that that's in the best interest of the ad hoc committee, nor do I think it's currently in the best interest of the township. Because if we were going to do something like that, then we should invite others to come in and talk to us as well. That may have an interest or may not have an interest. I don't know. So
I would be okay. Like I said, if we're gonna look at every option, then if there's another entity that wants to bring a proposal, I would think we
Well,
should
sure.
look at that.
Sure, I would hope you could do all of them, but maybe you don't have the time as citizens and committees and business people to do all of them. But yeah, I don't necessarily agree with Steve on that. I don't see how that causes prejudice. We're just looking for discussing and not necessarily even negotiating, just seeing what, if any, proposal there would be from the city and whatever entity else, other entities, including, I mean, one of the options was total paid on call.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and that's what kind of like we were talking about, but in a more specific way in terms of the East Grand Lake Fire Department model, because that totally is a paid on call. There's no.
yeah, you can hybrid those sorts of things. There's all kinds of different ways
Well,
to do those things.
Yeah, and I see it both ways. But at the same time, we've now, by motion of this board, just asked for a conversation. They voted to say, okay, let's have a conversation.
Yeah,
At
no,
what point
I'm
now-
not opposed to that at all. No,
Well,
don't
I
get me
think-
wrong.
yeah.
I'm not opposed to it. I just, I wouldn't want to have the first sort of reconvening of this meeting, this committee to bring in someone that is outside of that.
What I think he's saying is the committee, they have a meeting or two, just a committee until we get our,
And
figure
then
out where
bring,
we're going, and if somebody's got a proposal, we'll take
Yeah.
those. We'll schedule with them to.
so you will
our
meet with the
committee.
city, but it wouldn't be your first.
Right.
So
meeting.
then the ad hoc committee
Okay.
will meet here. I would also make that recommendation, because then we can videotape it and keep everything open,
It needs to be open.
because that's the whole vein of,
Yeah.
you know,
Good.
so. And I don't disagree if you want to meet as a.
I mean,
as
the
a-
ad hoc committee meet here.
I think so,
All right,
because
so
that's,
then one of the committee members would have to zoom in.
yeah, well, and that's, we can set that up.
Okay,
That's
that's
easy
fine.
enough.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
Closer.
we don't want to handcuff you, but at the same
No, no.
time, I don't think that the option is to remove any variables. It's just to flood every variable and what it would look like.
Mhm, fair
And
enough.
then we can say, okay, public, here's 39 options.
That's a
Yeah.
bit much.
And-
Good luck with that.
But you know where I'm going.
I know
but-
exactly what you
We'll
mean.
see in a year.
I'm, as we're talking, I'm sort of formulating some things in my head that I think would make sense.
Okay. So, I mean, because I want to make sure, I mean, do you want an agenda? What is the objective that will be taking place in these meetings? Because that's the last, I want everybody departs, that there to be a singular focus and not person A is doing this, person B is having this. So,
No, I'm happy to create an agenda that will focus us. I'll probably start by those original 4 types
I
and then
don't
break
think you even
subsections.
narrow it there. I think everything.
That's
should
what I
be a
mean.
type.
Then break
Yeah.
it down from there.
Yeah.
Take a pie chart and break it out. And then put on a board, pros and cons. Move on.
Beautiful. Is there any other,
I'd like a
discussion?
PowerPoint, Steve, if that would be possible.
Oh, boy.
Just-
I'm gonna need-
You also want to-
we're gonna need a
I like a
12-year-old
good
on
pie
my-
chart.
Pie chart.
We'll try to put something together. Obviously, we'll have some.
We have a whiteboard.
Yeah, we can just, I would just prefer, that way we can have it videotaped. And these discussions, that's another intro into a grander public input, because public input right now, yeah. Thank you for reminding us that we need to talk about it. But as it even stands right now, we don't know what the governor is gonna say come April 1. So I don't want to mislead anybody either, saying, hey, we're gonna do this on this date, when we don't even know what that, yes,
I had
Laura
my hand
was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't want to
Your
interrupt.
lasers were getting me, but I saw her hand.
Well, I think it would be beneficial as well to put these meeting dates of the ad hoc committee on our website. And that way, if anybody is interested in logging on or knowing, hey, there's a meeting coming up or whatever, that they can go back and watch it if they want.
Oh, yeah, no, I think
But put it on our website.
have it on our website. We have meetings by Zoom. That way, if any participants need to come in remotely, so be it. And then people can go back and say, well, they're actually doing everything that they are saying that they're doing. Be a nice change. Is there, so we'll look for an agenda.
Yep.
I may slip in here and there as an ex officio member.
That's fine.
As I told Beth, I
Well,
didn't,
sure.
I did not micromanage. I let that process take its place. And you guys did a great job. I was just looking at a smaller piece of the pie. Let's look at all of it, move forward.
So for input sessions, I mean, if the governor does open it up, we're still limited because of the size of this room on how many people.
Yeah, so
We
then.
could
that's-
like go to the Aplex and find out if we could, I don't know if there'd be a charge or what for us to use that, so that more people could.
Well, and hopefully, I mean, today we're stuck in this building at 79 degrees, I heard. We could have one outside sooner or later, weather permitting. I know that 79 was an exaggeration, but I only saw 62, so I was a little bit upset with the 70s. But yeah, where we can have, operate in a safe manner, given the social, whether you agree or disagree with it. People's social distancing, and go from there. But let's start with, you let me know when you have an agenda and a meeting date and time. We'll set up a Zoom meeting. It'll be here. Move forward.
Okay.
Any other discussion on old businesses B and C? Chief Robbins? Steve, could you let him use your microphone again?
I just actually want to make a couple comments. I'll speak to the result or the direction that is going. I totally agree with. I just want to put some caveats in there, and that's as I heard several mentions of emotion and leaving emotion out and things being based on fact. I'm a little bit leery myself of a conclave that would be void of emotion when you're talking about something so drastic as a 33, 32-year-old career firefighter with a toddler and an infant, one income family. And now we're talking about quashing their career because people can get better care from the fire department next door. You're going to get emotion. Okay, just so you guys, you're going to get it. Because even though it wasn't specifically implied, my first, when I heard y'all talking, the thing I got out of that was we want to give our constituents the very best care we can for their dollar. And the voice in the back of my head is saying, yeah, because the service you got right now isn't. Prior to November 5th, you guys had probably one of the hardest working, most dedicated, gang busting fire departments for your buck that you could have possibly hoped for. And that department can never be rebuilt. And this is my understanding now, don't necessarily want that department rebuilt because of financial constraints, other things that happened, et cetera. But you also are going to have to realize that there are two different departments where you're headed. As far as one department, as I said in a prior meeting, we were already there. We were there in the 30s, 40s, and 50s until a point where the township residents got to the point that said, look, the city just can't do it all. We need our own department. I understand all the financial, but why are we looking at turning the clock back to 52? We provide a very different service than the city does. I was gonna make, it may be not the place and a little bit too sarcastic, but I'm still waiting for somebody to show me the math that proves that we're gonna pull a $14 an hour firefighter EMT one out of this station and a $12 an hour firefighter EMT out of that station and replace them with two $22 an hour paramedic firefighters for less cost. I'm still waiting for that math to
Well,
come.
and I
Well,
think-
that,
and they- and
the answer is obvious,
Chief Roberts,
subsidy.
I think part of that discussion is we were also waiting for those points to come from you. And so how do we have that discussion openly? We're in a position now where we can't look at the 30s, the 40s and the 50s and say that those bygone good old era days. You know as well as everybody that sits at this table that there have been corrective steps, good, bad, or indifferent, lessons learned, good, bad, or indifferent. The last time I saw you stand up and make a nice stand, you also know what those staff that you just praised so diligently did. And so there's opportunities, and the opportunity is for discussion. And that's part of, with your assistance through the ad hoc committee, what that discussion will look like. Now, if you're going to bring the emotion and what you represent, that's fine. That's part of what you're going to bring. I do believe that both Trustee Kroll and Trustee Lappin are understanding of that. We're all understanding of the emotional response. But what we are looking for is a factual based response.
Well,
And
that-
so you make it so easy to say, point back at the board and say, I'm looking and waiting for these numbers. It's too easy to point a finger because we could all be standing in front of mirrors, Chief. Yourself included. And so let's realize that we can all stand in front of a mirror and point a finger. But the
Okay.
point of the matter is, we would like your assistance in having those discussions.
I'd love to give it, because my second point is that as long as we're talking about facts and all the misinformation that's going on in social media and the public right now, not to throw a blanket over this, because I think we made a lot of great strides tonight, but I was incredibly disheartened when I found out that I was looking through some documents on the township website, and I saw under fire department documents 1. So I pulled it up because I was wondering, well, I wonder what one of my documents is under there. I don't know. So, and lo and behold, it was Chief Bill Forbush's response on behalf of the township to the questions that came up at the November meeting at the Aplex. Please. Which led me to my comment is that I had made to some of the press is, as anybody, I'm being very sincere, has questions about the department, please come to me. I'm a little bit weary of Bill Forbush being the single source of information for what's going on between the township and the city right now. It was pretty eloquent, but he also is the author of, How to Do Away with Your Neighbor's Fire Department in One Easy Step. So I don't think that was exactly factual and fair. And I'm still having problems grasping that.
Are you talking about the frequently asked questions? Is that what's on the website under the?
Yeah. And that's
Because
probably-
Nathan did have input on that too.
Yeah,
That was not
we-
just Chief
we had
Forbush's
input on it,
response.
And the people wanted us to put the FAQs on our website. So good, bad, or indifferent, FAQs about a fire department discussion inherently would probably fall easiest under a fire department. That's that extent. So I can also voice your same point, of which I echoed, I hope, with a constituent in this room currently. I implore people to come and talk to me. And communication is what actually finds resolution. So, Trustee Foley.
And that's exactly why I said to consider getting a department consultant, because that's somebody that that's not involved with this. They're independent, and they're gonna look at the facts, and they're gonna look at some ideas and some thoughts of what may or may not work.
I agree. That was the whole reason behind Raymond Robinson in 2007.
Yep.
Which question was brought up in 2007 and voted down. It was brought up again in 2012 and voted down. And I'm a little bit unsure whether it was brought up in 2017 and continued through 2020, or if it was brought up in 2017. And this information is from Chief Forbush's PowerPoint at the Aplex. He did indicate that Cox began in August of 2017, and that accumulated with the meeting we had October 5th of 2020. So that's what, you know, I'm a baseball player. I'm like 3 strikes and you're out. But, you know, if we want to give them 4. And I also just want to point, and again, this is just my personal opinion, but you guys have already been offered a proposal by Chief Forbush. You've already gotten one. It was given to us. It only needed to be voted on and signed. So to go back to him and ask for that, that would be his second opportunity at a proposal.
So, so
And-
maybe that's with this whole vein of conversation, because I think that we hear you, and you are
Okay.
currently a department head. Maybe that is actually knowing that the fact that some people may have the inability to leave a motion and make any decisions. Maybe that's where we should actually look at. You said you made mention that you know a couple people that do that exact function.
Oh, I'm hoping we get feedback at the next meeting.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we will explore every option.
Well, no, and I think, I'm
Who knows
I'm
what-
sure
where
you
it will
will,
go.
but there again, I'm hearing conflicting things, and I'm hearing a repeat of some of the same talk that we're here on March 22nd, discussing how we're moving forward. We know the history that led us to this point, Chief Robbins. So.
I
my
understand
point
that,
is,
Mike.
And as a chief and leader of this department, I think it would behoove us all to listen to all options on the table. Good, bad, or indifferent. And I think that hearing some of what you've said this evening, maybe it would behoove us to look at a private consultant to bring in a non-bias, non-objective point as, I don't know. I would like to know what those potential costs are,
So,
because it doesn't help us to move forward if we're gonna not let go of the emotion and look at just at facts. We understand that emotions inherently tie to this discussion. It has been from day one.
I just have a question. So just to make it clear going forward, you commented on the thing on the Facebook, I'm sorry, on our website.
Yeah.
Frequently asked questions. So Chief Forbush helped answer some of those questions.
He answered
along
some
with-
and I answered some, yes.
But it's like, at what point, I mean, do you step in and assist with answering those questions? And you know what I mean, as the
Then-
chief of our town.
thank you. That was my question, which is why, as my comment is, I removed myself from Facebook long ago and have tried to remain very neutral and forgive my hornblowing, but there's lots of stuff I've read in emails and comments that have been forwarded to me or shown to me on other
Right.
people's Facebook's account that I'm like, I'm not going to stoop to that level.
Right.
But I'm getting to the point where I'm like, wait, nobody has asked me about, and as far as I had a point this morning, we were round robin with somebody and I said, please, I would love to debate somebody and go through the Raymond Robinson report again. Because if you bring the city council in and the chief and you guys and everybody else, there's going to be one of us in the room that actively participated in that study. And I haven't got a single question fielded to me. I provided data, I did interviews, I did. So yeah, please, let's go there.
Dave,
But trust me.
2 things. One is on that latter point, is I feel it's your responsibility to come forward. And I think that's kind of what Laura was doing. It's your responsibility. Don't sit back and wait and say, nobody's asking me. respond. Give us the information. Put it on, give it to them in such a way that it could be put on the website. Don't do what you're doing. That's my impression and my statement to you. Secondly, and I'm the one that talked about emotion as opposed to fact. So I know the earlier comments were referenced what I said, and I understand, and that's fine. As you'll see from the next resolution I'm going to present, I'm all for people speaking freely, no matter where it comes from. What I was trying to convey was that emotion is fine, and those that want to express it for their own personal reasons have that right. That's what I hope is still our constitution in this country. But and they have the right to say what they want to say. So that's not the point. The point is that when it comes for me to make a decision on the way that we should go, and I mean, we as a board just supported trying to reconstitute this fire department. But for whatever reason you want to attribute it to, because I remember you standing up at that meeting and saying, I'm going to fight for my guys. And then your guys all left within a month or two. So, I think they put you in a bad spot. You got put in a bad spot. But the point is, the decisions that will be made aren't going to be made on emotion at this board level. I understand that there's one of your only remaining person that feels in jeopardy here. But ultimately, the decision has to be made on what's best for the township as a whole. And so it's those facts that I'm going to be looking for to make whatever decision I make as part of this board. I don't make the decision. I just am part of the whole that makes the decision. And if there's 4 votes to 3, one way or the other, great. Whichever way it goes, I'm fine. I'm not even expressing that I have a position to take yet. That's why we want somebody to explore, because part of what you left off is that the city, after that meeting in November, basically said, we're not going to consider, a merger or anything like that again. And that I don't think is even part of any discussion right now. But so it wasn't until their meeting a week or so ago that we even knew that we could even talk to it. Okay? So just understand that that was a decision they had made as a board at one point. And now they've made a different decision or another decision as a board at this point. So yeah, anything we're going to talk about is new and different than whatever was discussed in November. You have to understand.
Any other comments? So please get a couple names of the people that we can discuss that, but I also think that it would help the process. And Ms. Bank willing and Mr. Esch is willing to help look at what hasn't been talked about. And that's as simple as very well put, Trustee Reiner. There is no decisions to be made. We're just looking at what all the options look like so that we can talk to the public and say, maybe 39 was a stretch. Here's 32 options, and here's the cost associated with it. And what are you willing to do? And this isn't a negative. We don't need, there's no emotional, this isn't a negative about the services that have been provided in the past. We've had great staff. We've never had a negative thing to say about any staff. We're just afforded the ability as an entire board, not 7 of one individual persons, to look at what is the greatest good for all 9,100 residents of this township. That's something that falls on deaf ears sometimes, is the wish and will of the greater sometimes supersedes that of an individual potentially. And but that's to be discussed. Let's find the purposes. I'm getting off the rails a little bit. The purpose is, what are all the options? And let's talk about it. And I think that the ad hoc can do it. You've vested in the time and energy before, looking at it in a smaller context. Open it up. What does this look like? What are the consequences of that? You know exactly. It sounds like I'm not speaking a foreign language. And it's not just me. I just want to make sure we as a board, so when next time we sit down and Clerk Palovich says, well, I thought they were gonna do this.
I
then-
was the one
And
harping
and
pros and
trustee
cons.
Reinhardt said, I thought they were gonna do this. I want to know that when we leave here and when those members of that ad hoc committee sit at this table and openly discuss, there is a singular focus of bringing in what those options are. Yes.
So should we make a motion of what that focus is? Or, I mean, how are we gonna make sure that it is clear?
I think the committee.
I don't.
Well, we thought so last time, Russ, and we all had different ideas.
We are going to explore all options. And maybe it is a consultant, I don't know. We're gonna look at everything and we'll provide a cost and pros and cons for each.
But you'll
option.
bring all of it
will
back
come
to us.
back, And yes,
So I'm concerned about the cost part because I don't know exactly how we can establish that when we don't exactly know who the players are gonna be. And so maybe that will come, but it won't come right away.
Yeah, it may.
And so I believe that, as I said, I'm kind of formulating some things in my brain now. And so I believe we can go off on a tack that will keep us on course and then draw from those the initial conversations. And then I'll contact a consultant or two and pick their brain a little bit.
And so, all options are
Yeah,
options. That's as simple as it is.
I'm totally willing to discuss the merger and takeover of city fire. I don't think that the chief corporation will.
Well,
Well,
there you go.
yeah, I mean.
It's an option
Yeah,
though, right,
sometimes
Dave?
you gotta let the past be the past. That's, another lesson. But moving forward, new business. Trustee Reinhardt, would you like to,
Well, this has already been commented on in public comment, and so apparently there's some familiarity with this. This is taken from, it is not the exact, but it's taken from a resolution. It's been presented as part of the packet. And I don't think I need to read through all the whereas clauses, but I would like to read the resolutions that I'm asking this board to consider. If you want me to read the whole thing, I will, but I was just thinking to start with on the second page where it says now therefore be it resolved.
I'm a stickler for whereases.
Okay.
I like it.
You like them, eh?
Usually we make Nathan read them, but
I can read
Well,
it if you want.
Who's the better reader?
Oh, I
have
think
to have
you are.
glasses.
I respect my elders. You are the better reader.
I'm the older and I have to keep taking my glasses on and off so I could see or see. All right, this is a resolution offered by myself. Whereas we live in a time of pandemic and whereas we are now entering into the second year of the global pandemic, which has impacted every charter township of Alpena citizen in a myriad of ways. And whereas the threat from the virus, though serious, has resulted in a thwarting of constitutional liberties and personal freedoms without sufficient regard for ongoing and potentially irreparable economic, emotional, educational, and other societal abuses. And whereas Michigan Governor Whitmer, working with the Michigan Attorney General, Secretary of State, and the directors of the Michigan Health Department, MDHHS, has taken actions to revoke the licenses of businesses for failure to obey and to enforce the unconstitutional executive orders. And whereas the orders by the MDHHS lack legislative support of the democratically elected representatives, having been initiated unilaterally and unconstitutionally by Governor Whitmer. And whereas the orders of the MDHHS have disallowed any degree of personal accountability, have eroded constitutional rights of citizens, and have placed undue burdens and restrictions on local businesses, local employees, and the citizens of the township. And whereas the MDHHS has issued orders without providing funding or sufficient guidance for the enforcement of such orders. And whereas the First Amendment of the United States Constitution states, Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And whereas the right and responsibility of individuals to self-determine what is best for their own health, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is necessary and ensured by our Constitution, which we have taken an oath to defend and uphold. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Charter Township of Alpena Board of Trustees calls upon the Michigan Legislature to exercise its co-equal authority by adopting constitutionally sound measures which limit the unchecked exercise and abuse of executive power, which restore individual responsibility and accountability, and which return Michigan to the ranks of freedom-loving governments everywhere. Be it further resolved that the Charter Township of Alpena Board of Trustees calls upon the citizens of Alpena County, Alpena Township, I should say, to act responsibly with regards to others while determining for themselves what is best for themselves, for their own families and loved ones, and how to contend with the ongoing risks associated with the COVID-19 virus. Be it further resolved that the Charter Township of Alpena Board of Trustees calls upon local businesses to use their own good judgment to operate in a manner which minimizes risk to patrons while protecting the health and welfare of their businesses, employees, and the community. Be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be transmitted to Governor Whitmer, both United States Senators for Michigan, Congressman Jack Bergman, State Representative Aller, State Senator Thomas, and the Michigan Township Association. And that is the resolution. If there is a second, I will then speak to it.
We have a motion for the resolution on the table. Is there support?
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported. Further discussion?
If I could speak to it.
By all means, sir.
Bruce Wozniak's comments as a citizen are definitely in opposition to this, and I respect that. In fact, that's what I'm trying to respect in terms of this. However, I also would say that the point of view that he expressed was rocking the boat or ruffling feathers, and frankly, I think it's our duty as citizens to do that when we feel called upon to do so. I truly have been pained by seeing the businesses in this community that have gone out of business because of the shutdowns. I've been pained by seeing people, and I'm still being pained by people being told that their work, that they have to do certain things such as take a vaccination they otherwise don't want. In other words, and otherwise to be able to do certain things within their scope of employment. I'm pained by a lot of what's been going on. I recall as an attorney, the Supreme Court decision that said the executive did not have power to do this without legislative approval within 3 weeks, 21 days, to support any exercise of such unilateral power. And yet, through one of her executive agencies, she's continued to do it with impunity. So I'm not trying to offend any of our citizens, and there will be citizens that disagree with this position. But they also have to understand that Bruce mentioned science, and my argument there is there's multiple science, including from the mouth of Dr. Fauci himself, who has discredited what is now being said. I just saw it replayed the other night. A mask mandate. He says it wasn't about a mask mandate. It was just about using masks at the early stages of the pandemic in February or March of this last year. He said, you can use a mask if you want to, if it makes you feel better, but it's not going to do you any good. And now he says wear two. So there's no real science, in my opinion, that supports one position over the other. So my thought is, I think we need to stand up, take a stand. Whether we do it as a township board or not is up to you. But I believe there's citizens in our township that feel very strongly that there's been overreach, and I'm asking to consider responding to that.
Further discussion?
I would just like to say, I echo your sentiments. I think people are responsible for their own health. If they feel better wearing a mask or two, then so be it. But I don't think it's government's should be their position to tell you, you know, when and where you can go and how. Our governor has done a lot of unconstitutional orders. And like she has not been checked per se to this point. So, but I think people are smart enough to make their own decisions for their health. If you want to wear a mask, wear one. If you don't, so be it.
And I guess I should say that I'm not wearing a mask in these meetings out of protest. I think we're socially distanced enough, Tim. I hope we're. But I have a medical condition that, you know, I wear it when I'm going to mingle around people, but more for their, you know, possible concerns than my own. But when I'm sitting at a meeting and talking, or if I'm climbing steps, or if I'm exercising, I can't wear them. So just understand that I have a medical reason not to wear them. I don't normally divulge medical information, including whether or not I've been vaccinated, but that's what but that's, I just wanted to point that out.
Any further discussion?
I just have a question of if it does pass, who's going to be the person responsible for transmitting it to Governor Whitmer, both US senators, Congressman Bergman? What?
Yeah, you can email it to all those.
Okay,
people.
so
I
you're
was
saying
hoping
it
it'd
would
be
be,
a
you're
clerk.
saying it would be me.
I was hoping it would be I was hoping it would be a clerk function.
Because it's not saying the clerk will do
Those
that.
that you delegated to me.
It just seems we're always assuming it's me.
Yes. Last name might end with a vit. No, I can
That will
help you.
influence my vote.
Yeah. Any other discussion? If not, roll call.
Trustee Lappin,
Yes.
Clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Trustee Reinhardt,
Yes.
Trustee Foley,
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. So we will have to have a third paragraph. We'll change that from county to township. And then I'll give you any assistance you need.
Tim, do you have the Word document?
Yeah, I'll take care of that.
Okay,
I'll take care of the correction and I'll insert the votes and the dates and everything. I'll give that there so you can just print it. You two sign it.
and I will email it off.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michelle.
That is teamwork. Okay, moving forward, past the resolution. Is an estimate that you'll see from Omega Electric and Sign Company to the tune of $7,634. This is, as you see, it's I believe M32 lighting car damage. This is an ongoing insurance claim from a vehicle accident. It's already been submitted.
I've already
to
submitted
her
it.
Insurance carrier. We would just like a motion to move forward with replacement and fixing this. Yes.
Question, is this the one from about
Yes.
a year ago, or is this a new accident?
This is
Well, we'll get there.
the one from fall, isn't it?
Yeah, this was, I believe, this past fall.
It was before I was on this board. I
Yeah.
know, But I remember.
That would
sitting in
be the one.
meetings Where it was
Yeah,
discussed.
so we already have the bench. We have to go put it on.
One light's been replaced.
One light, it's been taken care of, but as you see, this would be to provide and install new light pole with concrete foundation. The problem is with those lights heading westward on M32 is they're all daisy chained. So when she smoked that one and the bench, she pulled the wiring out 400 feet in either direction from other lights.
Sounds
So-
like Christmas lights.
So this may be, yeah, we're probably, even after this, we may be hunting for the bad bulb scenario with Christmas light. But this is a pass-through. This has been submitted to her insurance, but I would entertain a motion to move forward with this corrective action. We have a motion on the table to move forward with the repair to the tune of $7,634. Do we have support?
Go ahead. You can support.
Support.
And support. Further discussion?
So I want to make sure, a couple of things, that we're not putting ourselves in a position where we are accepting responsibility and alleviating the insurance company. They're on board with all of this?
It was submitted.
Has
I
this-
have
does-
submitted
do
it.
They have this number.
What?
They
Do
have
they
this
have
quote.
this?
They have this number. I
And-
submitted this, a copy of this estimate to them,
And this goes back how many months?
probably about 6.
And what's been the holdup by the insurance?
We just found out about this part, didn't we?
Well, it was beautiful segue. So is this the new light that's bad or hit by a car, or is this the old one? Well, as of, was it 2 weeks ago? I got a call at 6 in the morning as Mr. Heimroll's having a cigarette outside his office and said, who's responsible for the blue lights on 32? And I said, we are. He's like, yep, somebody hit another one. But upon that, I went to the MSP post because I figured that's what I did with the last time somebody hit a light pole. I have not heard back from MSP. So trustee Cole, could you look into if there was an actual accident report filed? Because we actually now have another light and another bench that are damaged to the point of replacement.
You'll need the date of that event.
Oh, yeah.
So that. you
Oh,
go through
it's
dispatch.
documented. And-
So I just, what I want to make sure
Yeah.
is that we also go on record, what insurance company?
State Farm.
State Farm.
So we also want to go on record with State Farm that any proximate loss associated with this, i.e. the Christmas tree example, would be considered this as the occurrence,
So,
so that any future stuff can be tied into this. I think that's really
so
important.
then would we have, who made the motion?
I did.
So trustee Lappin, would you be open to a friendly amendment from our insurance guru to make sure that we get the wording? Yeah, because
Yeah.
we don't know that.
So I guess what exactly do you want?
So I
us
want to
do,
make
Steve?
sure that State Farm is aware of this loss.
They are aware of it.
And then I
sent
want to
it
make
them.
sure that they have accepted liability.
I have not heard back from them, so I need to follow up with them.
Yeah, because I'm afraid that I don't want to pay this bill and then just have an ongoing fight with them. And then I want to also make sure that we recognize this as the occurrence.
What do
and
you
that
mean by
any-
that?
That this is what caused, this loss
Okay,
created this telephone pole to go bad.
okay.
And that therefore becomes the occurrence, and any
Subsequent.
subsequent damage that is found later on be submitted under this claim.
In other words, if underground wiring.
I
has to be
sent it
replaced.
under the last claim.
All right, just,
I
But-
did,
Have they paid anything yet?
I did work in insurance a
Yeah,
little
sure
bit.
they
Steve.
yep, I know.
So
I do believe that we were reimbursed. For the
we were
bench.
reimbursed, for the bench, and we were reimbursed for the first light estimate that we sent in.
as a result of this claim.
The
Yes,
same
this
claim.
is all part of the same
The very
claim.
first
Okay,
one.
and then I
don't know what
noticed
just
that
happened last
The
week.
second one I have done nothing with the second one,
Second
because
one-
we don't know who did it. So
Well,
we
so
don't
have
have
we
a
been
claim.
probably some
reimbursed?
video cameras around the area that can probably pin that baby down.
Have we been reimbursed for a light pole and light?
For all the estimates we've put
Everything that
in,
we've
yes.
submitted thus
Ex-
far have been.
So what is this extra 7,600 for?
It's for the light, the wiring, right, that they
Yeah.
pulled out from the
Yeah,
other
So
light.
it's.
So it's what Steve's talking about, the collateral
Yeah,
damage.
it's-
Right.
That's why I want to make sure that, and I wholeheartedly agree, make sure that our motion is sound so that
Yeah,
the insurance company, i.e. State Farm, is aware that this is still open and there may be.
until
potentially
such time as it's
subsequent-
closed.
We didn't sign a release of claim, I hope. but
Right.
We have
that's-
not signed anything.
That was
off.
gonna be our, we want to retain that until such time as it's closed. So, yeah, and then I noticed that there's no existing match. This is just gonna be an
No.
oddball telephone pole.
And so I didn't bring it to this because this agenda was already getting pretty full. But I have a quote, and obviously would have to get other quotes from other companies, but I just said, because they don't make that light pole anymore. It was actually fiberglass. So the newest one that snapped, it was hit, but by the time DPW actually went and looked at it, state police had already been gone. Haven't heard anything from state police on this matter. I left my business card, explained everything to the desk that morning, but it just snapped off and broke the bench. So that may be a separate claim on ours if we don't have an incident number or any other mechanism to follow through. So if you could look into that.
I'll look at it, because if there was any type of accident, you should have been notified. you know, common procedure. So maybe it was a hit and run and never was reported, but I'll take a look at it. So if I know.
But yes, so long and short, we do have a quote for full replacement to now go towards a new light, but
Yeah,
we're at the end of a cycle
Well,
and let's
hopefully State Farm
Yeah.
won't.
get power reestablished and make sure that it's safe,
Yeah.
and then we can.
Well, hopefully the insurance carrier won't depreciate it and they'll just pay the full claim.
And thus far, it seems that's what they've done
Okay,
with the
good.
bench
Good.
and the initial.
Are they
quote.
both in
Good.
the same exact area or?
Well, no, they're, you
One
know,
across the
a
street
whopping
from each other.
400 yards apart, so they're in the same area, on the same side of.
Oh, they're on the
M32.
same side of the street?
Oh, yeah, they're on the same side, so there's some consistency there. Southbound traffic, gotta love it. So,
Southbound traffic on.
Yeah. that-
M32.
With
no, I'm sorry, south side of the road, eastbound traffic.
with that amendment, I second it.
So what is the exact amendment?
Yes,
The
can
wording?
you
Because-
reword
Oh,
the
boy.
friendly amendment?
Motion to pay the bill contingent upon the insurance carrier knowing that this occurrence could result in additional damage that would be submitted to the insurance carrier for reimbursement.
And you're good with the friendly amendment? And who supported that?
I did.
And you're good with the friendly amendment to the original motion? Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Clerk Flavich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yeah.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Trustee Reiner.
Yes.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Trustee Lappin.
Yes,
And Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Moving on to the dust control agreement for this upcoming year. This is up $2,000 from the previous 2 years, of which we allocated 28,500 for. But the cost of the brine solution did go up, as did the chlorine mix that they use. So we're looking at a 2021, 2022 dust program costs for the township on our supplemental roads to the tune of $30,500.
Same roads as last year, just additional costs for the
Yeah,
material.
dust control, they hit every non-paved surface.
Not very
Whether
well.
it's not on
Not
certain
very
people's
well.
timeline when they want the dust control, or to the amount of spray that some people may want, but. yeah.
Well, they only stray one strip in the middle of the road and it lasts for maybe 4 weeks.
Henceforth, we
So,
had
okay, I live on a dirt road.
$5.8 million to fix all of our roads.
We'll put you on the list to get your road paved.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Let's add $3,000 or $4,000 so Michelle's road could get.
Just
I
pass
would
the driveway.
appreciate
So,
that.
She would appreciate
And my
that.
husband won't call the supervisor every year.
Yeah, it's a wonderful conversation he and I have. He's a splendid gentleman. So is there a motion to move forward with the 2021 dust control program to
I'll
$30,500?
make that motion.
We have a motion on
I'll
the table.
support that.
Oh, and support.
One question, is that the amount we budgeted?
We don't cite specific budget to
Okay, so it's
this
just part of-
program. Right now, the exercise at our last budget hearing was the $200,000 reduction in roads and highways. And so that would be out of that remaining money. So we have a motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Treasurer Ellery Summers,
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Trustee Reiner,
Yes.
Trustee Polly,
Yes.
Trustee Lappin,
yes.
Clerk Flavich, yes. Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. And then just so that I will need 2 trustees to sign prior to departing this meeting. The bottom 2 lines, if one of you guys would like to, I would appreciate that. So moving forward on the agenda is a budget amendments. As I walked through over the weekend, where we stand, obviously there's the end year closing will have some significance. But every department as a whole was within spec, with the exception of our building department and our subcontracted mechanical and plumbing. So The budget amendments that I would bring forward to this board and ask permission to move forward with would be to reduce $7,000 from 101-372-702-000. That is designated as the building official salary line in this fiscal. And of that $7,000 reduction, move 2,000 of which to, I believe it is the 382 is the mechanical. No, it's plumbing first in the order of import. So mechanical at 101-382-702-000 and deposit $2,000, which will cover hopefully to the end of this fiscal. And then 101-384-702-000, $5,000 to make an even transition of $7,000 in total. And then it's all within the same department as well.
What is the third one? Which is that?
What's
plumbing?
384. $5,000. I didn't get
Is
You
that.
that-
didn't, what is it, plumbing or?
Mechanical and plumbing they're both Bruce Tillinger. That's over budget in those two.
Well, there were more permits than we thought.
Well, and that's a wonderful thing. I hope we continued down the road of having more permits than we ever thought, because that means that our tax base is increasing. So I would entertain a motion to allow, because BSNA, you can't just do partial amendments. So I would entertain a motion to allow me to make basically this one, but in 3GL amendments.
And this will have all of our departments.
Yeah, everything's inside of scope per our CPA. Don't worry about individual GLs, because if you look at our budget, you'll say, wow, that's way out of whack. But when you look at the department total, it's within its funding mechanism. So I could go through line by line, but it's been already recommended by the CPA a couple of years back. Just make sure that departments are whole. So, yes.
I mean, I can see our CPA's point, but if we're working on next year's budget and the various line items within a department are skewed, in my opinion, because, I mean, yes, the bottom line is good. But if we're looking at budgeting for next year and we're over 1,001 and under 1,000 in another, I just think that they should be done line by line.
But when we do budgeting, we don't look at budgeted amounts. We look at what we actually spent that last year.
That's true.
So we're gonna look at, in that line, we actually spent 2,000, even though we only budgeted 1,700 for it. So
Yeah.
it doesn't affect budgeting at all,
And will we get?
because we're gonna always look at what we actually spent.
Yes.
Will we get an updated at the end of March? After the end of March, will we get an updated thing of what we spent in each of those line items?
We will, but it will not be complete because we'll still get bills coming in through April
Oh,
that will get posted back into the old fiscal year.
so I'd like to just see it.
So it's
accurate.
Yeah.
what we do is, we take a cutoff date for invoices coming in so that we can get everything to the auditors. So once everything goes to the auditors,
So then we could get that.
yes.
Yeah.
But, and then
And we do have our audit scheduled for May.
And then at the end of the audit too, there's still adjusting journal entries that,
Did you get a motion yet?
No, we did not get a motion.
I'll make the motion to make the amendments as indicated.
We have a motion on the table to make said amendments within the building department. Is there a support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. I will get those done first thing
Do
tomorrow
you want to
morning.
take a roll?
Yep, and roll call, please.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
trustee Reiner,
Yes.
trustee Polly,
Yes.
trustee Lappin,
Yes.
clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers,
yes.
supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Okay, moving to the last item of new business. It is Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act, which all kind of intermingles with earlier conversations of revenue streams. And I think at this point in time, it's at least something that we need to discuss as a board, good, bad, or indifferent, of the foreseeable continuation and removal and diminishing act of city, village, township revenue sharing, especially going to be really starting to have an impact on us come 2023. We have to be, before we put every burden on our taxpayer, we have to at least also do our due diligence to see if there's other revenue streams that are up to the individual people. Because another thing that needs to be discussed in the same vein, although completely different, is the ARP money. And ARP stands for the American, what is it? Rescue. This is the 1.9 trillion from Uncle Sam that I believe that 360 million of the 1.9 trillion are designated for states, of which it is actually now on the federal side of how they're looking at breaking out monies. And before everybody says, oh, there's not an economic concern to the township because we're gonna get $860,000. I would like everybody to be of the understanding that even as of yesterday in a very broad spectrum conversation through NEMCOG with leaders throughout the state does not have any rules or governance into how this will be dispersed. And the federal government has not even given the groundwork of how the states are to disperse money. So this wonderful tip of the hat of $860,000, I guess I'm of the mindset is I will believe it when the check comes in the mail. But there are caveats to this money as well. Has to be used by 2024. 50% quote unquote thus far. 50% would be potentially, this is the best guess, would be issued in 6 to 12 months. So that's $430,000 potentially in 6 to 12 months. So then you have the U.S. Treasury has 60 days from enactment of the law to get the money to states, and the state has 120 days up from receipt to get the funds to the appropriate local governments. And what so far the allowable expenditures, and as I think, at least I know from my involvement in the PSP PHR, which was the Payroll Reimbursement CARES Act money, is unfortunately a convoluted mess. Allowable expenditures thus far are a response to COVID-19 public health emergency, including households, small businesses, non-for-profits, and aid to affected industries. Providing hazard pay to local government workers who performed essential working during the public health emergency, or providing grants to employers with employees who perform work needed to maintain continuity of operations. Providing government services to the extent the reduction in revenue from the public health emergency relative to revenues collected in the fiscal year ending before the pandemic for typically 18-19. Or to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. Those are the guidelines thus far. I just wanted to throw that out there because it all sounds wonderful. We're getting $860,000, but that isn't going to be our reality. It will be somewhere south of that number, probably by the time it gets to the state, and then who knows what the determinations are from the state to us. But that's a side note. But it's of the same vein of conversation of, well, we also need to be looking at any and all revenue streams, because talks have come up even from as far back as Chad and the ad hoc of, well, you need to go for a millage. Well, let's talk about all those options that are available. In the vein of what's in the packet with the Michigan Marijuana Act, what you do have before you is a breakout of a change in the state stance to recreational marijuana. Only a few weeks ago, they released the fact that not only is it a viable revenue source for abiding municipalities to implement up to $5,000 inspection annual fee for any businesses associated. Any businesses, and we got clarification from Denise Klein today, that are dispensaries that have recreational marijuana, or what is now a new classification of a micro business, which would be a self-contained grow, produce, every license is in one building. And that's where you have the potential funding mechanisms from the state of $28,001.32 per license. So when you look at a combined total of per license in a micro business or a recreational dispensary of an annual $33,000, $33,001.32, it all adds up. And the times, as Bob Dylan once wrote, the times they are a-changing.
He was already using it.
Yeah, he was. He was with Clinton. They didn't inhale. But it's a point in time of let's openly discuss it. It's not that we're making any decisions, but when we know that we have concerns and funding mechanisms, this is a potential. Michelle, did you have something to say?
Not really, I'm getting tired. I'm sorry.
I thought couldn't tell if you're stretching for a yawn.
That was a yawn, I'm sorry.
I think that part of the decisions would be, if you went this way, what zoning district would be appropriate for micro businesses? That'd be a big decision.
Yeah.
It would seem to me that this language is probably already exists in various forms. Maybe the MTA has some sample ordinances.
Well, and actually even better than that is Denise Klein, who's worked with just about every municipality and wrote those languages. But
Where's she from?
she's with NEMCOG. She's Northeastern Michigan Council of Governments.
She drafted our new zoning ordinance.
Did our master plan,
Yeah.
our
She did our ordinance 142. And at that point in time, this topic was in its infancy. And the state had no direction at that point. And it wasn't a valid conversation to have. The state kind of tipped their hat, and I bring it to this board because that's how it should, is it's in our community already. It's an option for everybody 21 and up already. Is it something we should give consideration to in terms of having some additional revenue streams? And what that would look like, whether it's not initially, until we got a point of clarification, it was looking like, well, in my mind's eye, was that even a grow in the first round of how the law is divvied up in terms of 5 different licensures, production being the one I was potentially interested in, because we have, if you look at our zoning map, we're land rich with agricultural lands. They're falling off of our rolls because they're no longer producing an agricultural product, which then skews some of our other flexibilities in terms of, especially after board review. You don't have the ability to have any variance. So if the city's having dispensaries and that mindset, we're land rich and seemingly not cash poor, but cash concerned, as we should be. Let's have a talk about it. So.
Now or later?
Well, I think now and later, but right now it's just an introduction. I think, to be honest, I think this conversation needs to be had at the planning commission, of which this Thursday I'll be at their special meeting, having that conversation of what a zoning amendment may look like.
And it's a two-part process. There's a zoning amendment saying this type of use is allowed in this particular zoning district or districts. Special permitted use with conditions. So a person has to apply, and the planning commission then imposes conditions in accordance with the zoning ordinance. Then there's a separate regulatory police power ordinance that authorizes the particular type of use. And since here's what the permitting process is all about and addresses some other things. So the zoning is a real big part of it, though.
So do we have to beat this up right here and now? No. This was just a simple introduction of, you know what, it's come up in various other topics of. how
We
can
have
how
enough
can we
board
have-
members even interested in doing it. I mean,
Well,
Well,
that's.
You
right
mean
now,
interested in allowing it in
Yeah.
our community?
um,
I have a response to that, but my response is equivocal. It's been legalized by the state. So whether or not we want to allow it in our community, I guess is something, it's more of a moral question then, isn't it? And I've long since come to the conclusion that it's really kind of hard to legislate morality. They tried to do it in prohibition, and obviously that didn't work well. And of course, we know that Jesus said Jesus could turn water into wine. I'm not sure you can turn poison ivy into weed, but so I don't know if it's the same thing or not, but it's been legalized like it's the same thing. Do I believe it's an entry level drug? Absolutely, I do. But what does alcohol lead to? I mean, so I'm not that impressed with the money that's involved. I don't know that it enhances our budget that much. And I might, if we vote on it, I might not even vote on it. I might abstain, but
Can't do that.
you can't do that. Eh?
You're not afforded
Yeah,
that,
bummer.
sir.
Yeah, okay. I've been in law enforcement long enough to know that it's a problem. For every $33,000 we collect, we probably are spending more money on law enforcement, drunk or intoxicated, impaired driving because of the use of marijuana, and all of the costs associated with that, because they're actually more costly to process than a drunk driving case. And so I don't like it, but I think we have a number of our citizens that for medical and personal reasons want to use it, just as we have folks that use alcohol. So I mean,
well,
like
and maybe-
if Norm says I can't vote, abstain, then
You're
I'll
not
probably-
going on vacation that day as soon as you get the agenda. Yes. Steve.
I'd say part of the process too, I don't know what a micro business is beyond the definition in applicable statutes, is finding out what is a micro business.
Well, I don't think it can be in a residential area. Can it?
I don't think so, and we can zone it so that it's not. There's one in Onaway we learned today, so just it's supposed to be from the beginning, the processing, the packaging, and the selling. So what type of commercial entities do this? And what do they
So
look
Russ,
like?
you want to go on a field trip to Onaway and find this place?
I won't make any comments on the public record about it, so no.
Okay.
I'll just leave it.
We'll leave it at that. I just wanted good, better, and different. It's a conversation. So, yeah, don't bring up tower either. So anyways, it's not a business item. It was just, should be a potential consideration with the change in the state's distribution of funds. And let the conversation take place at the planning commission and at this level and see what shakes out. That does conclude the new business. This is the second opportunity for public comment. If there's any public comment,
Did you
in
see-
person. Trustee Lappin will borrow you his microphone
For a small fee.
for,
That's uniquely open.
is there anybody online that has public comment? Is there anybody in person that has public comment? Oh, Steve, would you borrow your microphone? Here you go.
Yeah, well, let me tell you. Beverly Banks. Hello. One of the things, I want to say thank you for the opportunities that I have been allowed to have. Being a taxpayer and being involved finally, because there's a lot of people that aren't, and which is kind of sad, because that is the crux of what we should be, is a lot of public involvement. And sadly, we haven't had a lot of that. And it's like pulling teeth and hair and nails and everything. So if anyone hears this, please become involved, because it makes a world of difference when you're really informed on all of the issues, whether sitting back and taking third party kind of conversations from things. The other thing, what I would like to say is also, absolutely, I have invested a lot in the fire department topic, and I would continue, as I have continuously said, I will volunteer my time to understand, explore, and identify what is the best route for this community. The thing that I'm a little leery about, and I really don't want any knee jerks, thank you, Michelle, for actually I think we afforded a little bit of time. I think as an ad hoc committee member, that what we understood as our initial charge was, let's get this through the budget. Let's get that through to allow us a little bit of time to actually investigate what are all the options out there. I would maybe implore a little caution on a third party if that is the route that this institution is going to go. Please upfront make sure that whatever it is that they need, that we are able to provide them. Let me remind us all of the J.R. Henry that we invested some money in, and we were not able to get any information from them, but we paid them money because they weren't able to get the information from what we had. So anything that we do third party, maybe we need to upfront make sure whatever it is that they need from us, that we are able to actually provide that. One of the things I understand, the Raymond Robson was 2007. In my world, in my academic world, 5 years, anything after 5 years, that's dated, that's outdated. I don't know the cost. I'm completely ignorant on it. Is it something maybe we need to explore and look at? Do we, because we already know Raymond and Robson has already come into these entities and looked at, is it something we go, hey, what would it cost us for you to come back and actually explore and look at that? They've done it once. I don't know. I don't have that answer. I'm not a magician. I'm not a wizard. I'm not a witch. Wish I was. Life would be so much easier. It really would. But I think it is that the fact is we need to look at what is actually reasonable and where do we go? Do I really and truthfully, as an ad hoc member, look at, did we do what we were charged with at that point in time? Look at the budget. Let's get through this budget. Yeah, we sure were. Do I completely believe that there are a lot of avenues, a lot of aspects, things that we do not even know, we don't know? You know, there are other private entities out there. It's not just one-stop shop, but what is out there that we don't know that we need to investigate? And until we actually look at everything as an institution, that we can say, that's not viable, that's not viable, that's not viable. These are what we're looking at is actually the best for us as an institution, because we're a little unique. I'm just going to say we really and truthfully are. What works best for us? And we really do. There's more homework. I've said this time and time again. There's more homework to do. There's more things to explore. We don't even know what we don't know yet until we open up all the doors to every single thing that could possibly be out there. And I would like to really see us do that. That's what I got.
Thank you very much for your comments. Are there any other public comments? No. But I'll catch you up with you as soon as we adjourn. I would love to oblige. Any other public comment? Online, are there any people online that have public comment? Seeing none. Any discussion by the board?
I think, just responding to what Bev said, and I know we don't typically respond directly and have a dialogue, but the, looking into whether Raymond Robson would come back because they have the foundation built for less cost than maybe another consultant. And as she said, because of the condition of our budget, should I say, back then, or our accounting, let's put it that way, they couldn't come up with answers for us, as my belief is how that played out. Maybe I'm wrong. I see Norm reacting differently, but the point is that if they would come in for a reasonable cost, given the foundation they built, maybe that's not a bad idea to look into them as one of those possible
Yeah,
consultants. So,
therein is one of those variables that can be thrown on the table. I think that's the goal, is to look at all the variables and then.
But she has a point too, that we absolutely, if we're looking at a consultant, which I'm not opposed to, are we in a condition to provide them all the information they would need to give us some?
That's
So-
also a very valuable point to have been made. Most definitely.
When I speak to whomever I speak to, I will ask them to send us some sort of a proposal. And I suspect in that proposal, they will ask for certain highlighted things. Yes.
I just wanted to be clear that the J.R. Henry consult was just for non-emergency transfers. It was not looking at the entire
Right.
fire department. In those records, the majority of them were kept by the fire department. So that's why we did not have the data as detailed as needed to do a consult.
So I'm confusing Henry with Robson in terms of what they said they couldn't provide us.
Yeah, J.R. Henry was very specific to non-emergency transfers only.
Any other discussion to be had for the greater good of the order? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion and support by trustee Foley. Quick one. That was a quick draw the
You ready
right
to go,
there.
Norm?
Kinda startled me on the right-hand side, starboard. Any further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose the same. Meeting adjourned at 8:31. Thank you very much.